My name is Jay Daniel. I'm on the board of directors for the Texas Water Safari Corporation. I think I am the secretary. This is Bob Spain over at the Mouthful of Donut, is also on the board of directors. We have, let's see, David Kaiser sitting over here is on our auxiliary board. I actually said auxiliary correctly. I'm going to quit now. Holly is back here in the corner and helped put all this together today, is on the auxiliary board. And I think that's all of the auxiliary board members that are here, correct? On our social media team, all volunteers, Jonathan Zeke in the red shirt at the back. He's playing video games is what he's really up to. Sandy Yonley, I almost said Goins. I mean, I've been doing that for your whole life. Sandy Yonley is here, and Patty Geisinger is here, or Giesinger, or all the other pronunciations that you can come up with. And they help us with all our social media and pictures, and any pictures you see today were likely taken by either Patty, Sandy, Ashley, or Kate. What's it? Oh, thanks. I didn't know how to get there. All right. So a quick how today is going to go. The first part is the really exciting part. We're going to talk about rules. And so I can't tell if Sandy's having problems or if he's just like,
to the man behind the curtain.
click my heels together and okay. We're going to talk about the rules. And this is important that you understand there are safari myths about rules, and there are the rules that are the rules. For instance, you're going to see somebody at some point, I guarantee you, is going to say, your kid can't touch you, or your husband can't touch you, your wife can't touch you, you'll get disqualified. I guarantee you, in the entire history of this race, nobody has ever been disqualified for hugging their kids or getting a kiss from their spouse. I mean, trust me, there's some guys I would have had disqualified that finished in front of me that got kisses from their spouses. So it's just not a thing. But it's just one of those things that's going to come out. So let's start out. We're going to go with registration. This is not on your handouts because it's just it's on the website. Go right ahead. This is my wife, Kristen Daniel. Also, you should know that she will be probably your initial point of contact with anything you do with the race because she monitors the email for me, and she's also the registrar for the race. And that was a lot simpler job when there were 50 boats in the race than when there's 170 boats. Are you ready?
Yes.
All right.
Thank you. And now we have 3 races online. So it's, I hate microphones. Hate them, Patty. Thank you. All right. Registration is opening tomorrow morning for all 3 races. Please don't just go out there and register willy-nilly and then have to email me later that you need corrections because it's going to cost you money to do that. So let me start. And like I said, all of this is on the website, updated this morning. All team members, paddlers, and captains enter the race at your own risk. And you can't hold the judges, the corporation officials, sponsor liable for injuries or damage to personnel, property, or equipment. And you'll be signing multiple waivers along the way that attest to that. The minimum age to race any of the water safari races is 13. And you must have, if you have a 13-year-old to 17-year-old, they have to be in the boat with somebody that's 18 or older. And then the parent or legal guardian has to sign a waiver. The minimum age to race solo is 18. For the water safari, this is specific rules for the water safari, each team must have 1 team captain with the option of having 2 team captains. Team captains are land-based. Team captains are different from racers. Racers are in the boat, team captains are on the land. You cannot do both. You are one or the other. We have to say these things because they've happened. For the safari, you can have 2 team captains. We strongly encourage that you do that you have 2. Team captains must be 18 years of age or older. When you register for the water safari and for the prelim, you have to register with the team captain. If you sign up with the team captain or you put yourself or another member that's a racer as a team captain, I will return your registration to you. It will be deleted and I will let you know. Team captains are part of the team, so you have to register with a team captain. And you can register for 2 for the water safari. All registrations are final. There's no refunds or deferments. And there is an entry fee structure that is on the calendar. So the cheapest it's going to be is now until like mid-March for the safari is $250 per racer. And then it goes up from there. Any changes after you submit your registration incurs a $25 fee. That's if you want to change your class, change out paddlers, change your team captain, all of that's $25.
We kind of feel like we're the Delta Airlines of races. If you add a bag, you know, we're gonna charge you for it.
So just do it all up front and then we don't have to charge you. Because it's a nightmare if everybody wants to change everything willy-nilly. You can replace a team captain at the current price structure. So if everybody registered at the $250 price and then you have to swap out a team member and it's at the $350 price, just the team member that's coming onto the team has to pay that fee plus the $25 admin fee. Let's see. This is a new rule this year racers cannot be replaced or swapped out after registration closes. We are adding team captains this year as well. So you have to have your team captain set in place by the time registration closes. And this is for safety reasons because we create lists for all of the checkpoint officials, the safety officials, and they need the accurate information. And we do not have time to turn it around on check-in day, swapping out team captains. So let me say that again. You cannot change your team captain after the registration closes. Now, there are exceptions we'll talk about later if something happens during the race. Let's see. Teams cannot be combined after registration closes. So when it closes, that's your team. Starting positions are based on the results of the marathon, and you've got to have registered by the Sunday after the marathon. If not, then we go based on your registration sign up. If you're out of state and you don't race the prelim, then we take date of registration and we fill in the 6th position on each row until we get to the end of those. You are able to choose your own boat numbers. When you register, you have the option of you need to put in 3 choices. 3 different choices, no leading zeros, and it is only 4 digits long. Don't send me 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Don't send me 007. What? I'm sorry? And then you're responsible then for putting that boat number on your boat. I will notify you within a couple of weeks of registration if there's a duplicate, and that's also done by registration date. And that's it for registration. I'll be around later if you have any questions.
I want to reiterate the thing about the team captains. One of the things that happens pretty frequently, am I loud enough, Patty?
You're fine. We're not live, but Sandy is recording, so you're good.
We're living in the Matrix, guys.
There is no spoon.
Thank you, Patty, for that. That was wonderful. Anyway, the team captains are an integral part of the race, and so don't get the idea that you're racing for the first time and you're going to call your boyfriend or your girlfriend to come down from Harvard or wherever and be your team captain without ever having seen the course or anything. I mean, that's your lifeline. That's your safety. link to the rest of the race. So really important that you think that part through. All right, we're going to talk about the required equipment. And I'm not going to go into detail on this because I think, Dave, you're going to talk about first aid kits and things like that this afternoon. Probably didn't talk about the order thing. We're doing rules, then we're going to talk about the course description, and then this afternoon we have 4 breakout sessions, and I think you've seen all that online, and I'll get the numbers wrong, which one's which, but they're all 20-minute sessions, so you have an opportunity to go to all 4. All right, required equipment. Each team is required to have a first aid kit. You have to have a two-way communication device. You can have a cell phone. You can have a satellite communicator if you've got one of those fancy things that, shoots back and forth messages. And that's two-way. So like, most of the trackers and things do not have two-way capabilities. I think some of the new inReach probably do. Or you can have a two-way radio. Probably not spelled out in here, but important to know. If you use your phone, that's going to be your communication device. And it's also how you listen to your music. You've got to have a way to recharge it. You have to have, I don't care if you have music, but I want you to be able to get a hold of someone if you have a safety issue. Okay, blah, 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 snake bite kit. Really, that's just kind of one of those things that's still in there for the legacy of things, because you can get as many doctors in this room that know about snake bites, and they will give you a different answer on how you're supposed to treat it. An efficient signaling device, that means a whistle, by and large. It needs to be attached to the PFD of at least one of the, it needs to be attached to the PFD, your life jacket. Flares, they need to be red flares. If it hasn't happened in a long time, when we first started requiring flares, you were able to get green ones, and apparently that's what fishermen use to signal each other, but does not call the Coast Guard. So need to be red flares. Do not wait until Saturday morning or Friday, I'm going to get it all backwards. Don't wait till Thursday of check-in or Friday morning of the race, because I guarantee you nowhere between Georgetown and San Antonio is going to have any left, because somebody else already did the same thing. Okay, and most rules come because, somebody did something, make it a rule. Do not use the flares for anything other than signaling for help. It's not a celebratory thing when you finish the race. It will call the Coast Guard. You ask me how I know this, because I didn't do it, but I've seen it done. And the Coast Guard they're not playing. PFDs, I'll let you read that through yourself and figure it out. Kristen, if you'll hand me the 2 over there. You have to wear it going across the bay. Now, there's always going to be somebody that wants to know, where does the bay start? And basically, when you get into the big wide part that is no longer the river, stop and put your PFD on. It doesn't mean paddle halfway across and stop at Foster's Point or something. Just put your PFD on. It needs to be a type that you wear. There's several of the orange ones around, you see. But the most important thing I want you to know, because they've become really popular, you cannot have an inflatable PFD. It can't be one, no type of inflatable PFD. Clear and bud? Perfect. All right. Satellite trackers. This is changing and will continue to change this year. You can use a spot device if you're one of us who've been around a while and you've already purchased your spot device. After this year's Water Safari, we will no longer be using them. Garmin inReach is the technology that we're going to stave off any questions. I don't care. Bob doesn't care. None of the auxiliary board members care what type of inReach device it is. It can be the fanciest Montana, I think it is, or it can be the little bitty mini. It just needs to be one that has that technology so that we can track you during the race. And then there's some various requirements. You need to have a way to recharge it, or you need to have backup batteries, yada, yada, yada. Boat numbers. Kristen talked about the numbers. There was a time where everybody wanted to be 007. Sorry, none of us are that cool. But it actually hangs up some of the software that records no leading zeros. We talked about that. This is important. The numbers are the only way the checkpoint officials have to identify your boat. So let's say years ago, Fuzzy Churchman would want to be 67, and my boat number was 167, and if my 1 came off of the boat, which has been known to happen, then all of a sudden they don't know which one of us is which, and so the team captain is required to get your number back on the boat. It has to be contrasting to the boat, in other words, if you have a carbon fiber boat, a black number, even if it's reflective, is not going to cut it. But a white number that's reflective would work really well. If you go get your post office box numbers, that's great. Just make sure they're 4 inches high. These are the kind of things that people think, how silly this is. And there's some guys who've raced this race for, as long as I have, and they think how silly this is. But all of it is for being able to consistently track the race. You have to have a white light for night travel. You have to have a white light for night travel. Nobody says you have to turn it on, but you have to have one. That's for old timers who used to think you could actually turn your light off going across the bay and they wouldn't be able to tell where you were and they couldn't catch you, like they weren't already going faster than you or you weren't swimming. Then the last thing here is important for any of the white light, the spot tracker. Oh, I didn't change that one. Satellite tracker and flares are not required for the Texas River Marathon. They're not required for the Gator Chase race, which is the day after the Texas River Marathon, and they're not required for the Junior Texas Water Safari. All right, any questions? Corrections? Words of amazement? All right. There it is. Competition rules. All members of a team must travel together in the same boat and the same canoe under the same regulations. In other words, there's no relays of any kind permitted in the race. If a team member drops out, they're out. It's not like they can get out at Staples and say, man, I'm feeling better. I'm going to hop back in the boat at Palmetto State Park. Let's see, relay, we said that. All your supplies have to be in the boat. So let's say that, for instance, you have a spare paddle. And you need said spare paddle. If you left it in your truck, you can't go up to the truck and get your spare paddle. It has to have been in the boat. You are literally up the creek without a paddle at that point. So, I mean, there will be a penalty, and that's a big one, because I mean, it's a canoe race. If you don't have a paddle, there you go. This is where I talked about the myths of the water safari. This is what confuses. Teams shall not receive help or assistance of any kind during the Texas Water Safari except for verbal assistance or those items listed in Section 4, Team Captain Rules and Responsibilities. So, while technically, I guess it's a great big, I mean, for me it would be, if my wife came up and, hugged me or kissed me, it would be a great big assistance that's not verbal. It's still not the thing we're going to come after you for. We're not coming after anybody. We don't want to have to deal with rules. Should medical care be required by a team member? This is the discretion of the team members or the team captain to request medical care to ensure the health and safety of the affected team member. By signing that waiver, the team members and team captains expressly agree and understand there is no obligation on the part of the Texas Water Safari Corporation, its board members, or officials to provide standby medical care at any point along the race course. We don't have helicopters standing by. We don't have ambulances at the checkpoint. You have 911 with your phone that you've kept charged even while you're listening to your music. Okay? Everybody's subject to spot checks at any time. Penalties from anything. Time penalties to disqualifications may only be imposed by the head race judge, race chairman, or the Texas Water Safari Board of Directors. That is likely to change this year, but only in the sense of there will be a competition committee during the race so that there's no misinterpretation of what might have happened along the way. All right. Teams must negotiate over, around, under, or through all obstacles from the originating point in San Marcos along the entire length of the rivers and bays to the finish line at Seadrift. It's humid. For a shortcut to be legal, there's got to be a flow of water through it. So there are places on the river where literally the piece of land you're going around is no wider than your boat is long. But you still can't pick up your boat. I mean, you could pick up your boat and go over, but you cannot legally, by the race, pick up your boat and go over it. What's really sad is you have some of these places through the years, and if we ever get the video to come up, I'll be able to show you, where the course shortens itself, but if the water's got to be high enough to paddle through it, and it's the most frustrating thing in the world when you come up to it thinking you're going to be able to cut that corner and, you know, it's loaded up with silt or what have you. But so you have to have a flow of water through it. Overland portages are not allowed except for necessary for log jams, dams, or bridges. This can get really confusing in the lower river. Any exceptions we will talk about at the race briefing on Thursday. I'm not going to get it right half the time. Because, I mean, sometimes there are just things that we have to make portages or make calls on just for safety purposes or just for clarification purposes. There are exceptions to the rule where water or the bay flows. At Thompson's Island, the left channel below the road bridge. I think I keep hearing stories. You know, you never know what's true if nobody actually comes up and says it. That someone took the left channel, went under the bridge in the left channel, and then portage down into the river. That you cannot do. You have to go under the main road bridge in the right-hand channel at Thompson's Island. That's at River Road. Probably most of you will never have a clue because there's no water flowing through the left channel right now. But it'll rain someday. I just don't know what day that's going to be. The coastal portion of the race is that part of the Guadalupe and San Antonio Bays from the mouth of the Guadalupe River to the finish line at Seadrift. PFDs must be warned crossing the bay. In stormy high wind, you can follow the shoreline to Seadrift after crossing to the east side. You can row, paddle, walk, swim, carry. I didn't put it in there, Holly, but you can pole your boat across if you want to. Or you can drag your boat from the east side. You can't go into the Victoria Barge Canal. The Barge Canal has barge traffic in it. It's not a safe place for us, so it is not an appropriate cut. There will be some more about that in a minute. If a team enters the barge canal, they must exit the barge canal at the same point that they entered. And this used to be a lot easier to discern where it was because they would dredge it and they would put the spoil and make a nice little island between the two. But at some point they made a ruling that you cannot put spoil back into the bay, and so those islands are are starting to wear away. Teams entering the barge canal may be disqualified or face a minimum time penalty of 2 hours. Go in and back out where you started, you're fine. Go in and make progress down the barge canal. In my mind, if you even paddle up the barge canal, you've put such a safety burden on things that you should have that penalty. Intentional interference with another team's progress during the race will be grounds for disqualification. Pace boats or canoes, that is, you can't have somebody just paddling alongside you or in the motorboat or whatever alongside you, letting you surf that nice little wave, and just can't do it. That speaks for itself. This ought to be in bold. Deliberate littering of the river is grounds for disqualifications. Teams should keep their trash in their canoe and hand it over to persons on the bank. I will forever have a mental picture of my daughter at about age 8 at the Victoria boat ramp. She's just sitting there minding her own business, and I reach in the boat and I give her an entire lap full of garbage. And she looked at me, and having been around it her whole life, she's like, "I got it, Dad." And that was probably the last time she ever cooperated, but there you go. And then we have cutoff times. And for some of you, heck, at this point in my life, and for me, this will be really important. Do not plan your race by these cutoff times. It won't work out. It just won't. I mean, these things are there so that we can keep the race moving. If you manage to get to Staples at 2 o'clock and you think, man, I'm going to kick back and take a break because I have 6 hours to get to Luling 90, probably it's not going to work out for you. What that allows is a team can damage their boat and have the means to repair it and be able to quickly get from Staples to Luling, for instance. But anyway, don't plan your race by this. So Staples, that's FM 1977. The cutoff is 2 o'clock on Friday. Luling 90, the cutoff is 8 o'clock on Friday, and you can read it on down for yourselves from there, because this is one of those things I can't remember how many times we have these cutoff times written because they seem to be a source of confusion for folks.
There'll be a lady in a raccoon hat.
What's that?
If you see the lady in the raccoon hat,
Yeah, if you see the lady in the raccoon hat,
you're in trouble.
you are pushing it. Protest policy, any protest by a competitor, another place I didn't catch it, must be accompanied by a $100 fee and must file the protest no later than 1 o'clock on, strike that where it says Wednesday and put Tuesday. And this is actually the most important rule of all. In formulating the rules that govern this event, every effort has been made to foresee all situations and problems that might arise. However, officials of the Texas Water Safari Corporation retain the right to change or amend these rules at any time without liability or recourse from any party, regardless of circumstances. So should such changes or amendments be made, all entrants will receive notification of the same. Sometimes the race course changes in the middle of the race. In the 2000 race, it started raining during check-in. By the time the race started, the river was significantly higher. If the first place boat was in almost normal water, the people who were finishing in 100 hours, I'm not certain that we would hold the race or that we shouldn't have pulled them out of the race at that point because the conditions were such that it was rising. So we had to put in mandatory portages that had more to do with safety than anything. I mean, that's generally the reason for all of them. And Dave?
If the protest is granted, do you get the $100 back?
You do. Yeah, it's not $100 to protest. It's $100 if your protest was baloney and we didn't hold it. You going to talk about team captains? Is Andrew here? What?
Just the porta cans. People always ask about porta cans at checkpoints.
Oh, yes, if it's something that, if it's a permanent something, and I know porta can is not permanent, but if it's there for everybody, you can use it. So yes, as a racer, you can leave your boat and go to the porta can and use that. I mean, if it's a picnic table that's there that stays all the time, yes, you can sleep on that. But
Yeah, when we get down to that feeding.
yeah, okay. And Kristen's going to talk quickly through the team captain rules and responsibilities.
I need you to
What?
email your presentation to me, because I got my computer. All right, team captain, responsibilities. We will be doing a team captain session.
I'm sorry?
Oh, for the rules? The team captain responsibilities, yeah, or it should be, oh, wait, no, we didn't print that out. We did not print that out. So it's on the website. And then also this afternoon, if you come to the team captain session, there's a handout that you'll get there. So team captain.
This is overview, it's not.
Yeah, you can, we're just trying to give you some overviews and not print a whole tree's worth of paper for everybody. It's, well, yeah, more than one tree. Okay, so as I said earlier, you have to have a minimum of one team captain for the race, for a team, with the option to choose, have a second one. Strongly encourage this, to have a, huh? What?
Which, where do you want it emailed to?
Either one. Sorry, we're working out technical issues. I don't care, either one. So team captain, like I said, they have to be 18 years old. Team captain responsibilities, they will sign the boats through at checkpoints. So very important, they need to track your progress along the way. There's 11 checkpoints that they will sign you through. You need to make contact with your team at each official checkpoint, and then if you choose to, any other legal access point along the river. Let's see, you can, sorry, yes?
Well, if you have two team captains, does every team captain have to check in at each checkpoint?
No, only one team captain needs to sign. Like you could decide, you could decide that one team captain's going to sleep a certain amount of time during the night, and y'all trade off. Only one team captain has to sign through. It's not both team captains' signatures. It's just one team captain. But because team captains are the only ones that can do handoffs to the boats, that's why we recommend having two. It makes it easier to hand off. So you have to be a team captain to be able to give the supplies to the team. It's not just anybody willy-nilly. So if you have a larger boat, it's very helpful to have two team captains that can do those handoffs. You need to notify a race official if you've been unable to make contact with your team. And it is also your judgment if you have a concern about your team, health, safety, to contact a race official if you want to initiate a rescue. If you do that, that is asking for help, and you can be, your team will be disqualified at that time. The other thing is if team captains miss signing teams in and out of the checkpoints, that can also be cause for disqualification. We need to know that the teams have come through. Let's see. If the team has an emergency during the race and needs to drop out, you need to notify, you need to do that at a checkpoint and write on the sign-off sheet which team member got out of the race, or it could be the whole boat. Sometimes if you're in a multi-man boat, they can decide to go on without one of the members. If for some reason there needs to be a team captain change in the middle of the race, we are allowing that. You need to do that at a checkpoint. You need to notify the checkpoint official, and they will have the new team captain sign waivers at that point. So you can still have two. Let's say you've got two going along. One of the team captains gets sick. You've got somebody else that can step in. That's perfectly fine. You just need to have that done at a checkpoint. You will have, the team captains have a placard that you'll get at your packet when you do check-in that will have the boat number on it. Please put that on your dashboard. That helps us at checkpoints to identify who team captains are. Also during the middle of the night when team captains are sleeping, if there's an event, we're able to see who the team captains are. Let's see. So once again, just make sure that you notify the race officials if a team member or the boat has to drop out. And there's a number, if you want, it's 361-785-5500 is our main number that we have operating during the race that you can also call. Let's see. All right, talking about handoffs, you can hand off food, water, and ice from the riverbank or a permanent dock. You can't be out in a boat in the middle of the river to do a handoff. You can walk out into the middle of the river and do that, but you cannot be in a boat, so you need to be at the riverbank or a permanent dock. When handing off food, you need to use reusable mesh bags for exchanges. If you have food, that can be like in an individually waterproofed seal-a-meal bag or a Ziploc bag, but Ziploc bags cannot be larger than a gallon size. We've covered this, but you cannot hand off paddles, lights, repair equipment, supplies like that. That all has to be in the boat. You can't provide chairs, tables, eating utensils, tarps, sleeping bags to the paddlers when they come in. If they want to take a tent and a sleeping bag, then they have to carry it in the boat. You can't supply that on the bank for them. Glasses, hats, sunglasses, mosquito repellent, those cannot be provided to the racers either. Those have to be in the boat. Paddlers cannot sleep in vehicles. Yes.
Sorry, you mentioned medical stuff like Band-Aids or...
Oh, Band-Aids and stuff, that's fine. That's medical supplies. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Racers cannot go sleep in a vehicle. They can sleep on the ground, picnic table, or something that they've carried in their boat. Let's see. And then I'll have Jay talk about the feeding and sleeping areas here in a second. And we also mentioned this earlier. If your boat loses one of the numbers, you, as the team captain, are responsible for replacing that. That can, I would recommend having some extra numbers with you. The mailbox numbers that you can get at Lowe's, Home Depot, those are great to take. Those are usually reflective. Have some extra ones with you so you can handle the boat, touch the boat as you're replacing a boat number. So, do you want me to do check-in real quick?
Yeah, I can talk about that real quick. Actually, you probably should go download that thing.
Do what?
Go download that. All right. Race check-in. This is the most exciting thing y'all will do today. Let me tell you what. Listen to somebody read you a bunch of rules. It's more fun when we talk about the course here in a minute and whatnot. But I just, if we need to get up and do jumping jacks or whatever, I'm cool with that because it's not all that exciting for me either. Let's see. I want to go and talk about the feeding stations. Did this part make the printout? Okay. Just to eliminate the potential issues of people going asleep in their vehicles, and it's an easy thing to do. It's like, oh, there's my truck. I sleep in it all the time, and you go walking up the bank, and and then you just realize I can't do that. That's against the rules. So what we've done is we've created at multiple checkpoints, it'll be an area coned off, roped off, or somehow designated that is the sleeping, feeding area. I cannot promise you that it will be a lovely shaded spot, because some of them just don't have lovely shaded spots at all. The nicest one is at Victoria City Park. I wanted to take a nap there, and whatnot. Okay, check-in. So on Thursday, well, prior to that Thursday, would be the June 12th is check-in. That's the day that you bring all of your stuff to the Meadows Center, formerly known as Aquarena Springs if you're old enough. And you follow those procedures. You will get an email sometime a couple of weeks ahead of time giving you a sign-up time to come on in to know when to show up. You need to have as much of that paperwork filled out when you get there as possible. You'll pick up your race packet. A race official will check at least, they will check at least the required equipment, because that's the stuff you have to have. The rest of it, they may or may not ask to look at. But this is the important part. This is where the document that says, I have A, B, C, D, E in my boat, is important. There was a time where you had to have everything listed because you carried everything. You had all of your food and whatnot. So, if all of a sudden we found a Whataburger wrapper in your boat, it was pretty obvious that you better have had a Whataburger wrapper or Whataburger checked in on your food list to start with. Who knows? Maybe those days will come again. Did I leave anything out about check-in that's important?
Oh, come to the check-in table first.
Oh, yeah.
Don't do anything, don't find a race official. I mean, you can unload your stuff and then come to the check-in table first.
Yeah, there's a wad of paperwork, because we wanted them to send guns and money, but what they sent were lawyers. So there's a wad of paperwork that has to be filled out at the beginning. There's waivers for everybody. There's waivers for all the team captains. There's waivers for all of the racers. There's waivers for some of the places we have to access. I mean, this is why you have to have maybe the main reason you have to have an adult with you if you're a kid, so that they can sign this stuff for you. We about there? Oh, I was going to let everybody have a break. Okay. Let's take until. Look.
Jay, will you be able to keep your boat there overnight?
Yes, you can leave your boat there overnight. There is security on site. Do not leave your food in the boat overnight, because the guards will not shoot the squirrels. And again, it didn't happen to me, but some guys I know, it happened to them. So yeah, a lot of folks they'll do the complete saran wrap of their boat. I just don't leave anything in there I have to worry about getting eaten. I left my truck door open the other night and something got in and ate my payday bar. So learned a lesson on my own. Was there another question?
What's the cutoff for registration?
The final day of registration is somewhere around Memorial Day. Kristen will actually, no? Oh, no.
I suppose it's on the website. I think it says May 17th or something like that.
May 16th.
May 16th. So the question is, when is the last day of registration?
Did everybody catch that? Last day of registration, May 16th. The last day for your spot to be held, based on the prelim, is the Sunday after the prelim. So that's an important date. And again, you have to have all of the team members who are going to race with you at the prelim Texas River Marathon. Yes?
Can the waivers be signed ahead of time, or do they need to be signed the day of check-in?
They can be assigned, they'll be loaded to the website as PDFs that you can print out. Print single-sided, please, because there's two different waivers, and there's one waiver that has to go to a separate location. So they'll be up, same thing for the prelim. About a week or so before the prelim, the waivers will be posted. Patty's great about making announcements on
Correct.
The registration for the river marathon is actually the key date. That is a hard cutoff date.
Right, that's to me the most important date of the whole bunch is, I mean, don't get me wrong, we like for people to sign up late because that's revenue, right? But it's also a pain for the registration folks, and that Sunday after the Texas River Marathon or prelim is key because you would hate to spend your hard-earned 6 hours or whatever racing for a position, then find out that, oh heck, I forgot to register.
So communicate with your teammates. We had that happen last year. Each other thought they had registered. Sorry.
And generally, it's not folks who are doing this for the first time. Generally, these guys have like won the race or something. They just, you know, they don't have a wife like mine that'll fill all the paper out online, you know, because I'd have to start filling it out now. All right, let's take about a 10-minute break for the cause. I can refill my coffee cup. And we'll answer any questions you might have in the meantime. Thing I was talking earlier about, the rule doesn't say your light has to be on. There is a state law that says your light's supposed to be on. So if you want to take a chance on turning your light out, the safari's not going to penalize you, but the game warden might. So just bear that in mind.
And as far as I know, we've never had anybody called on that violation. They don't tend to police the river in that manner, but it is the law. It could happen. It certainly happened for people who didn't have life jackets in their boat. That's one thing we certainly know.
Are other racers allowed to help you turn the light on or off? Can't reach it?
Who's asking the question? Oh, boy. Another racer, as long as it's your team member.
Nobody can turn the light on or off?
Right.
Can the team captain turn it on or off at the checkpoint?
No.
No, okay.
I mean, I don't know how the heck, no. I mean, the answer is anything that happens in your boat. I mean, let's say, for instance, that you have damage to your boat. They can't do any of the repair work for you either, even though it may be, you know, maybe Fred Miner standing there with all of his patch kit in the world, and he still can't do it for you. So, no, you have to operate all your own equipment. Yeah, team captains are, man, as a matter of fact, if you read all the stuff about the trackers, the team captains are the ones they can change that out because that's a safety thing for us more than it is for anybody to track you. They can change the batteries out, they can reset it, they can put another one in as long as we can get it signed up. So, but thank you, that's a legit question. All right, any other questions before we move on? You have to have the batteries. I mean, the rule reads that you have to have the batteries in the boat. And they have to be lithium batteries because otherwise they won't work. So all that said, if you've gone through your spare battery somehow, probably there's a malfunction with the piece of equipment to begin with. But we're not going to penalize somebody for getting a tracker reset. Now, I probably didn't say that a lot of the new ones have internal batteries that have to be recharged, whatnot. That means you need to have a means of recharging that thing in the boat. So, you know, the GPS unit I have has inReach on it, and I have an entire separate battery pack that goes to it that will keep charging it the whole time. Because otherwise, if it goes 2 hours without it pinging us, then we're assuming that, you know, that it's not functioning anymore. Anything else? Did that answer your question? Yes, sir. Cool. Man, I'm batting 1,000. All right. Now we're going to talk about the course description. Is there? Oh, and I've not done this like 12 times. So if you look in the back, there's a wad of T-shirts back there, right? So every year we have some left over, and these are like all some left over for about 20 years worth. So What did we say they were going to be, Dave? Where did Dave go? Oh, $5 a T-shirt. I'd sell them for $5 a pound, but I wasn't in charge of making that decision. And then Bob has books back on the table for sale
Those
about.
are for water safari back there. It didn't go to the authors or anything, but that's a water safari book back there that you sign versions if you're interested.
How much are those, Bob?
43.
Bob has not learned the lesson of you have to make everything the cash number that comes out of an ATM machine. So they need to be either 20, 40, 60. All right, the course description. This is the fun part. These guys did survive. And I'm trying to operate Kristen's computer here. All right, check-in. We've talked about that. But it's actually probably it's both the most stressful time of the whole race, but it's one of the most fun times too, because in a lot of instances, this is the first time that you've seen some of these folks since the last safari. And if nothing else, you will find that it becomes pretty much a family event. And we treat everything like family. We fight like family, you know, and we love on each other like family. I mean, it's just kind of the way it is. And all the things that families go through. I mean, it's just like it. Course description. So from San Marcos to Staples, as you can see, there is no straight line in this entire issue. This is the beginning at Spring Lake, the Meadow Center. There will be some, what's the word I'm looking for? Challenges with the start if we don't get some rain soon, because the flow rates of the river trigger the Edwards Aquifer Habitat Conservation Plan. Boom. And that means that we can't go through wild rice that's on the river as much as possible. And a bunch of that is right up here where we need the portage. And so at this point, it gets to a pretty narrow chute. So what you might find is for some reason, the team that may be the fastest team in the entire race had to start at the back of the pack because they forgot to register or they didn't race the prelim or something like that. And they're going to be coming through. And while it's not written anywhere, I would tell you, you may have the right of way, but the other guy's got a truck. So bear that in mind. And that portage happens over near what I call the ice house, but what is it now? Kirby Lane. I mean, I started to call it Peppers, but I'd really be showing my age.
Is it going to be as roped off as it was last year getting out of there?
I would assume at this point that it would be virtually identical to last year.
That was
Not fun.
not the worst experience I've had.
Oh, you hadn't fallen down on it then. It gets worse. All right, but no, it's going to be tough because we have to, we're trying to avoid everybody having to portage all the way around Kirby Lane through the parking area. That would get really tight. And we're only by the good graces of the Meadows Center are we able to still start the race here after, all of these years, because it's not an amusement park anymore. It's a research facility. Kind of pretty. I still call it the hotel, but it's the offices. Get real nervous. San Marcos City Park we've actually started the race there 3 or 4 times when there was damage to the dam at Spring Lake. You'll come around and, there's nothing, there'll be people there. We hope there'll still be people there. Rio Vista. This is going to be, it'll be interesting this year, I think, because we're starting the race on Friday so that we can avoid some issues downstream with some user conflict. So normally, this place is covered in people. It's like going to North Star Mall in 1987 on Christmas Eve, before they had Amazon. There's no room to go, and you've got 170 boats trying to make it over this thing all within a few minutes because they hadn't had time to get separated. So number 1, be careful. Number 2, please don't take out a spectator.
Or your social
or your social media team. Although there's a bunch of them, so at least one of them could be expendable.
Not Ashley, don't run for Ashley.
Um, no, then we just have to do all that other crap. Never mind, none of them are expendable. But this is, it's an interesting place because it was a dam, and I can't remember now when they changed it from, it's still a dam, but it put in the whitewater piece below it. And they managed, actually this is where like most of the really most fun shots are, because a lot of you are going to want to try to run this chute. And by golly, you go ahead. These guys it worked out okay for, they won the race after this, but they had the right boat for it. So they also had the right boat for the bay. They made up a big chunk. But most of the really good pictures are people trying to run that. Left of center, right of center, they're all over the place. You can do the far left portage. Obviously, they were not doing any work because they're having too much fun. Then downstream near the Cheatham Street Bridge, you can put in, if you take the left-hand portage, be careful there, as everywhere because there's a bunch of folks. Cape's Dam, or Thompson's Island, as a bunch of us will refer to it. The city has it coned off, so really there's about a 20-yard area that's feasible to portage on over to the right. You can go across that little chunk of island that's there. You can go down the dam and portage it, but don't, man. Let me tell you what, I've got scars on my shins from it. And this is where I talked earlier about you have to follow the road bridge. You can continue to go left, and back in the day when there was plenty of water, it's about 30 seconds faster. And then you can carry along the road and put back in and go under the road bridge. Cummins Dam. So, how many ways to portage Cummins Dam is there? There's a trail around the left-hand side. It's a perfectly legal portage. The people who own it don't like you to do that. There's a trail around the right side, perfectly legal portage, not all that good. The people who own it don't really want you to be there, but you have a right of portage. There's a lot of folks will come over the middle of it. Jason Cade will jump down the middle of it head first. So there's a few examples of longboats portaging it. Are those stairs still up? I haven't been over that way in a while. Oh, thank goodness, man. They made the stairs going down the buttress, and they were a really good idea, except for they were the perfect width that you could not actually get a recreational boat or aluminum boat through them until you got about stuck. And now you've got a backlog. So at some point there was like a ladder type structure. A lot of ways to get down that. This is coming into Cottonseed Rapid. This important to know, the Perkins family allows us to use it on race day for spectators. So if you want to tell, your mom and dad, hey, I'm going to come, this is a really good place to see it. If you're not sure of your boat handling skills, you might not want to tell them to come see you there. It's really crowded too. And how I don't have any good pictures of people actually going through it is beyond me. This is Martindale Dam, a little bit downstream. You can portage over on the left. I don't advise it. There's a pretty good trail around here. There's several put-ins, but generally portage on the right. Staples Dam, a little bit further than that. My coffee cup ended up on the other side. And those of you who have raced before, if I'm missing something that you think they ought to know, y'all pipe up. See if I have anything on here. I think y'all got copies of the course description, so that should be able to follow along. And there's some more up there if you need them later. I would tell you this. to is you're going to see a lot of the race is advertised as 260 miles. Somehow it got 5 miles shorter from when I started, and then we added an extra mile at the end of it. So I see all kinds of mileages for it. 260 is close enough for government work, and the river keeps trying to straighten itself out. So it's probably gotten a little short, but Grady Hicks tells me that it keeps cutting away at the bend, so it may have averaged out. So I don't know, somewhere between 260 and 265 miles. Martindale Low Water Bridge, at high water, it can be a mandatory portage. I still can hear Stephanie McFerrin's head hitting that thing going underneath it. I mean, it sounded like a watermelon getting thumped. She finished the race, and somewhere they got the bright idea that if you put super glue on it, that it would be good. It's like it wasn't actually cut open. I mean, it's just like smeared on there. So anyway, and right below this is a pile of rocks that you can't see. So, know where you go. And I'm not going to try to give you guys a detailed course description of it because it's changed since I went down it last time. It'll change overnight. Staples Bridge, there's 2 legends and a wannabe legend. He did win the race once, so we'll let him be a semi-legend at this point. The other ones have won it like 7 or 8 times each. Staples cutoff, we keep talking about these cutoffs, but you need to know them, 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Fentress is the next bridge, Highway 20. If you park in there and you're not a TCKRA member that has a sticker on there, you need to pay to park. It's private property. It's not there for us to use, but it's a good, I didn't know if I was getting directions or not. That is the first access point past Staples. That's 9 miles down, 10 miles down, depending on how many zigs and zags you made. And that's Amigos is the name of the bridge. You can come in from River Right and park way up where there's past where the no parking signs are and be good to go, but it's a hike. Oop. Man, I'm just gonna pound on that thing. And popular handoff spot. The next stretch from Staples to Luling 90 is probably generally the most difficult stretch of the entire race, if I had to guess, based on the water level, and it is not getting any higher right now. And although I would tell you that I've seen it get higher, like I talked about earlier, it starts raining on the day of check-in, and all of a sudden it's a different river. So you can see you go from Fentress to Prairie 1 to Stairtown Bridge, real tall bridge. There is a nice gravel bar on downstream left of the bridge. Is that right, Kristen? Downstream left is the gravel bar at Stairtown. And you have to walk down. I mean, you could drive down there if you want, but you would never get back out because somebody would block you in. So there's the gravel bar, some more legends. There's a bunch of legends in that one. That's cool. Luling 90 is the second checkpoint. You go past under the railroad bridge and the highway. Hopefully your boat's still intact. You didn't have to stop and patch it through there. I've had to. And now, the city of Luling has graciously started mowing down past what's their normal park for us during the water safari. The parking is tight here because you have to go under the railroad. No, you don't go under the railroad. You go under the highway bridge, and by the time everybody parks there, if you're driving a real truck, you just may not be able to get through there. If you're driving like a cyber truck, well, you probably shouldn't be here anyway. So, never mind. Just saying. So anyway, all that to say is plan your parking well. Kristen generally won't park if she's team captain. She won't actually drive through if it's messed up like there at Luling 90. Yeah, we were able to use all that field for parking. So if they will continue to do that, we're good. The cutoff is 8 p.m. Friday. from Luling 90 down to Palmetto State Park. Sometimes I think I should take these pins off of here because they confuse people. Another twisted section, but it's kind of nice. Zedler Dam, the Portage River right, not Rifety. And if it's dry, there's plenty of parking on River Right on that field. I would tell you, you are going to hear, it's slippery, it's slippery, it's slippery until your head wants to explode because it's slippery. And people are all wound up and they want to be helpful. You can portage, you can slide down this buttress, you can go around the trail, which is probably the safest route, or you can carry your boat over the riprap, mind your step, because it's twisted, and there's an option.
Need a picture of the orange boat last year.
What's that?
Johnny's boat last year, the orange boat going over.
Oh my gosh, that was, I should have put that in there. You know, basically the only thing that was missing from this video was explosions at the end. I mean, here's this really heavy, long boat, and they start down, and they lose control, and the stern starts swinging, and everybody dives into the river, and nobody gets hit. And seriously, it just needed an explosion. That would have made it perfect. Picture from just looking back at, this is the riprap I'm talking about. That stuff real unstable. But it's a good place to smile because the social media team always hangs out right down here below it. So you don't want to actually let them get you saying the kinds of things that you're probably saying after you make that portage.
And please don't stand up and pee right there. Because hello, social media will be just get in the water like
He was Canadian. Oh, you missed that one?
well, no, I mean, saying who it was.
Oh, no pictures is. Heard that story just again the other day. This little Ateen, son of Ateen, everybody's got a name for it. It's about 2/3 of the way from Zedler to Palmetto, and
Oh my God, thank you so much.
2/3 of the way from Zedler to Palmetto. It's an old dam that's collapsed. It used to be relatively simple to run the chute kind of through the center of it. I don't recommend that now unless I get unemployed and start fixing boats all the time again, because it'll tear them up. I got people in here who wish I'd fix some boats. So it's a portage, right, left. Do not go far left and try to go through the old chute. It is a boat eater. And by boat eater, I mean it will eat your boat. Palmetto State Park, the cutoff is 6 a.m. on Saturday. It's kind of just an overhead shot. This is probably, in my mind, the most consistently dangerous place in the entire race. Because what you're gonna have is this crowd of people. And it could be worse, and it could be better, and it could be daylight, and it could be night, depending on what's happening. If the water's a little higher, it's a little scarier. And there's going to be people trying to help you. And by help you, I don't mean they're going to try to carry your boat. They're going to be shining, especially if you get there at night. They're going to be flashing lights and go here, go here, go here. And you can't understand a thing anybody's saying. So if there's any place on this entire river that I want you to have a plan, it's here. Just upstream, as the river makes the bend back to it, you can hop out on the right. My second year here, the whole time I was scared to death of this place, and we would walk the boat to get up onto the bridge until one day we turned over in front of it and wrapped the boat on the bridge, and I realized that it wasn't even waist deep. But that water's rushing underneath there, and it wants to get you. I mean, so they're not actually traumatized. It was low enough to where they could put the boat under. And that's the other thing too, when it's low, you can actually slide the boat under either side, but you see how it is in the center there. It's a get you.
Just as
Yep, that's right. For your, I think we've put it out there several places, but this month the parks, Palmetto State Park is redoing the roads here, so there's just not a viable takeout right now. I mean, you can park all the way up at park headquarters, and they don't mind if you portage all the way up there, but it's probably a half-mile hike. Did I get better, or worse, better, worse, better, worse, better, worse? There's the other option. You can go up and over. This is one of the years where the water started coming up during the race, and you can see, I mean, it's these little blocks that make, it makes, what was the Marvin the Martian, an earth-shattering kaboom when somebody comes flying into one of those things. Sladen Cemetery Bridge, you can no longer, oh, that's what's left of Sladen Cemetery Bridge. This was one of my favorite places, but it's not there anymore. I mean, there's a bridge there now, but it's not, if they finished it. So Palmetto to Gonzales is nothing really all that exciting. Occasionally, there'll be some jams in there. Maybe yes, maybe no right now. I don't know. I hadn't been down there yet. Any of you guys?
There's a piece of angle iron somewhere along there that's broken, tell us.
Fair point. I think right above Sladen Cemetery Bridge, or the bridge formerly known as, that's kind of like Prince, we'll give it a little thing. There's a deer stand that got washed into the river in 1998, and every once in a while somebody finds it right there at Crystal Wall. You'll know what Crystal Wall is when you get there. You don't need me to point it out to you. This is Gonzales Dam. This is Checkpoint now. It used to be down at the gravel bar, but for various reasons we made this the mandatory portage, and so it's a simple setup. You get to talk to my old friend Jerry Nunnery. There's where this red line starts. There's a dock there. You can use the dock to get out. You can scramble up the bank. You can do whatever you need to when you get there. The cutoff at Gonzales Dam is 4 p.m. on Saturday. So at the gravel bar, it's a pretty common rest area, probably the most common rest area. We don't have it roped off there. You're on your own because it's not an official checkpoint. But somebody comes wandering down there, and all of a sudden they find out you're sleeping in your car, or you're or what have you. Don't do it. But it's a good sleeping spot. It can be pretty noisy. If you're there at night, there's usually some drunk kid trying to get his car unstuck.
Jay, I'm sorry, let me go back to Gonzales Dam.
Yep.
The checkpoint, what is that again?
River left. Huh? 4 p.m. Probably the one that's printed is correct. Yeah, I'm pretty sure the one that I have printed is correct, not the one I have here.
It says 2 p.m.
Yep. My mistake. This is incorrect. What's printed is correct. Look at that. Somebody with attention to detail. Gonzales to Hoheim is the longest stretch where there's no road crossing in the entire, or no river access, I should say, in the entire course. It's somewhere between 36 and a half or 37 and a half miles. Depends on whose GPS we're talking about. There are things that you can learn to give yourself an idea of where you are along the route. Kind of thing. I was going to show you. Yes. If you notice right here where it says Cannonade Ranch, that's the two straightest stretches of the entire river, over a mile long, because I'm pretty sure God did not straighten it. But you can see a light way upstream, and if you're lucky, you can see one downstream that you're catching. And that's about 12 miles in. And when you make that big left, there's a big old light shining in your eyes. The cutoff at Hoheim 183, did I get this one right? 4 a.m. on Sunday? All right. Hoheim. How should I describe it? Um, the armpit of Texas, I think, is a popular one. Um, Actually, we have someone that's really been working on getting it cleaned up for us and getting the road worked on. So knock on wood, we don't get a flood between now and then. Some rain, but not a flood. Um, and I would really suggest that you don't get yourself, the team captains especially, don't drive down in there thinking that you're just going to be able to turn around and get back out, because it's a one lane in and one lane out kind of thing. Hey, Hannah. Yeah.
Also, you that have been there before, you had to drive all the way down in there, but this year, Joe Hunt has been working on this, helping us, and he's not racing this year. I think he's retired, but he's actually got permission for us to park when you first start to go down under the bridge, turn off. There's a gate right there, which is private property, but we've got permission to park in there. He's also working on possibly, or it seems like it's gonna happen with the highway department, to put some gravel in those pits down there that become pits when it rains. So we should have a little better situation this year than we have in the past. Yeah, we don't have access, yeah.
Yeah, race day only, but race day only. Patty's gonna drive me nuts. I mean, it just sucks. I don't even know how to describe it. I mean, it's a bank that goes down at about a 60-degree angle. Sam's rope will be there, so you can, use it to, what? Do I have a picture of it? Oh, yeah. And you see how happy he is. And sometimes it's dry and not too terrible, and sometimes it's wet and not too terrible, and sometimes you're in the middle of the pack and it's really bad because everybody else has already gone back and forth up it and down. I mean, just that's it.
That's actually the color of the water that I like.
What's that?
So that's actually the color of the water at that.
It's because of what those guys did up at Luling Dam. I mean, there's an example of the parking. I mean, it's tough. And that's actually on a well-behaved day. When you're down there at night, it's a whole different animal. All right, down to Cheapside, the cutoff is 11 a.m. on Sunday. There is absolutely nothing I can think of to tell you that's remarkable about this stretch of river. It used to be that there is one thing. Let's see if I have a picture of it. I don't. There's a radio tower, and you see the radio tower from the checkpoint, and you're going to come around the corner, and you can see about a half a mile down the river, and you see the radio tower, and you're going to say to yourself, "Self, I'm almost to Cheapside." But what it is you're almost to Cheapside. It's all of a sudden you can't see it again, and the river twists and turns and goes around. But there is generally good parking here. Probably the best place we had as far as a place to sleep laid out. This is just downstream. It's a pretty good handoff spot at the boat ramp. There's a sandbar just downstream that, particularly if it's somebody in a multi-person boat, there's more room to get everybody in there. And be kind to your stern man. Let the whole boat get pulled in there so he's not having to draw the thing over the whole time while y'all gab. They're so underappreciated. Let's see. From Cheapside to Cuero 236. There's probably better pictures of this now, but there used to have to portage at Cuero Dam, and so this dam had a history of blowing out. So in 1985, when I did my first water safari, you had to actually portage up and around it on the right, and then in 1986 it blew out over on the right, and you could paddle through it. And as you paddled through it at first was terrifying because it was very narrow, and then it got wider and wider and wider and wider and wider, and became the river. And then they fixed it, and when they fixed it, they tried to raise it so it would be able to generate more power, and this is what you ended up with, is this long loop around it. And now nobody ever gets to see this really neat old dam. And you guys never know the joy of portaging it. I didn't even talk about Ateen Dam, and it's like such a simple race nowadays. This is one of those instances where it's really shows how the river cuts itself off. This is over a mile of the river that got cut off. In 1992, Tom Goins and I paddled through what you see there as the river, and I almost killed him because we hit a root ball, and he came out of the boat, and he came up, and his glasses were down, and then we just paddled on. And then in 2000, the year it was coming up, Chris Paddock and I paddled in there, and the water wasn't going all the way through at that point, so we had to paddle back up and all the way around. Now, you're never going to know that there was a cut to look for there. But that's, and if you stick with this long enough, one of the real joys of this race, in my mind, is finding these shortcuts and learning how to deal with them. And there's more of them that we talk about at the lower end of the river, but they're everywhere. It's the last frontier. 2:36, the cutoff is 3 p.m. on Sunday. Got that right. Good parking. The handoff is pretty good near the bank on river left. It's not great, but it's pretty good. It's no Hoheim. De Leon Rapid is probably the only really significant rapid on there. We could talk about history stuff. There's what's left of an old acequia along there if you know what to look for. And De Leon Rapid, I don't think it was a dam, but it's kind of its own special little place. And it's got a big wave at the bottom when the river's low that you can swamp in real quick like. Victoria City Park boat ramp, the cutoff is 6 a.m. on Monday, which I don't think we really talked about the Texas River Marathon as where it went from and to. The Texas River Marathon doesn't follow the checkpoints as such, so don't be misled. We go from the halfway point between 236 and Nursery, Thomaston, 236 at River Haven. It'll be all marked out. And we paddle past the boat ramp and go to the pump house and have a nice meal and tell wonderful stories. But the boat ramp, the cutoff is 6 a.m. Monday. So weird saying Monday. It's a great handoff spot. The parking is limited near the boat ramp. It's actually, just the whole area is pretty limited. They have it roped off where you can park on the road pretty well, but it's not very good parking down at, it's good parking. It's just, again, you need an escape strategy, and sometimes folks park in your way. That wooden dock is, the water's about 3 feet below, about 2 feet what you can see right now. Victoria to DuPont. Now we're getting into the nitty and the gritty. So in case you need something to occupy your mind, there are 105 turns from the time you leave. What I have labeled as Loop 175, you'll know it as Highway 59. So when you get there during the race, you're going to think to yourself, Jay told me it's 105 turns until I get to Swinging Bridge. And I'm supposed to change that. It's not supposed to say DuPont anymore. So that's all I got to say about that. There's 105 turns. It is so twisted that if you're there at night, I'll tell you, the first time I ever paddled this stretch of river, we left Victoria City Park. It took, call it an hour to get to Business 59. Then it took, call it another hour to get to Loop 175, which is 59 now. And so we're looking at the maps that they used to pass out on the printed brochures, and come to find out, Paula Goins had drawn these maps at whatever point in time, and it was that far to 59, and it was that far to Business 59, and it looked like it was only that far to the Swinging Bridge. And so we're coming around, it's getting dark. You start seeing the lights off of the plant, and you think, here we are, it's about an hour, I'm almost there, and the river turned right. And so we go for about another hour, and there's the lights of the plant, and the river turns right again. And so it took so long that my cousin, who was running a shuttle for us, had actually had time to go find the deputy sheriff and pulled up to the swinging bridge about the time we took out. So don't be fooled. At Swinging Bridge, there's no, it's a tough one because it's a long haul from 59 to 35. I think that's 34 miles. And there is no public access except for during the race day. There's private access, and you're going to hear people talk about going down there and, you know, parking at the railroad trestle and going to look at the jams. You're going to hear that. You're going to see that on social media. Make sure you have permission from a landowner before you go down there. Because the folks that own the properties around the railroad trestle can get pretty persnickety about people trespassing on their land. I mean, just don't do it, please. I mean, I've had guys call from down there, just, he was really, really angry. I don't know how else to put it. And he's like, well, you know, these guys said they were from the Texas Water Safari Board of Directors and they were going to check the log jam. I said, they said, what? And I said, well, was it Jerry Cochran? He's like, no. Was it Alan Spells? No. Was it Bob Spain? No. It wasn't me. You know, so, you know, that's the kind of stuff that will end up losing us acts. And you just happen to be the latest ones to get to have to hear the rant, right? But so much of this access is dependent on the goodwill of the state and the goodwill of the landowners. So let's do our best to keep all of them happy. Highway 59 or Loop 175 been around a while. It's a good parking. It's an okay handoff in dry conditions, and it smells like fish guts. What's that? But when it's dry, is what I'm saying. Yeah.
Last year, there was a property owner that had given some access a little bit down the bridge. Is that going to be accessible this year?
We have not spoken with them yet. I'm assuming from the conversations we had last year that will happen, but I hope we do because it was much nicer than this. I mean, pretty much only Hoheim is not nicer than this, but in Hoheim doesn't smell like fish guts all the time.
It's just another good reason to pay attention to the website and social media. That if it's cleared, it will be on social media. If it says no on social media, go with it's a no and not with anybody else. So just keep an eye.
That confused me.
Well, if you say no on social media, it's no.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry.
If it says it on social media and it says yes and it's from the safari,
Okay.
then it's everything
Yes.
is always on the website first.
Right.
before-
And then social media, they generally put a link up and, you know, Patty says something happy because I've usually said something that I was aggravated, and that balances it all out. 105 turns, just like I told you, from there to Swinging Bridge. You can count the first one right there. Swinging Bridge, the cutoff is at 6 p.m. on Monday. I don't have a good picture of the Swinging Bridge itself. It's called that because there's an old suspension bridge there, and the last time I saw somebody drive across it was 1985. So no, yep, I will. Yep. Yeah. So, and Bob was reminding me we're about to get there. This is the checkpoint crew. Fortunately, the folks at Invista reached out to us last year and it's a two-part thing. Is you used to drive over the barge canal and get down to where it is, and they took the bridge out. So now there's access through the bottom end of the Invista plant, and they very graciously have let us start using the old boat ramp that used to be the checkpoint. That'll be this year. And if it's half as nice as what they did just on a whim last year, it'll be the nicest checkpoint, except for the mosquitoes, on the entire river, because they put up like one of those air-conditioned temporary toilet facilities like you find at a good concert. And then these guys, they're full of tricks, man. If you see a snake, think twice. Is it really a snake, or was it one of their rubber snakes that they put out?
So that spot where the bathrooms were last year will be the checkpoint this year?
Yes, that's correct. So upstream, quarter mile-ish, I think it is. Oh, then we're not going to answer. Yes.
Cutoff is 2 hours off there before.
Yep. Just go with what's printed.
Go onto the website. All of these papers, all of the stuff
Yeah.
that's on the website under the race.
Yeah, ultimately, I mean, that's probably an important point I should have made earlier if I didn't, is the real authority is what's printed on the website, because that's the last thing it's possible for somebody to see, right? You know, unless they've got something we printed and they carried it with them. But that's the most up-to-date that anything will be. Let's see, that's the old takeout. I wish I had a good picture of the boat ramp, but I don't. DuPont to the saltwater barrier, which is actually no longer to the saltwater barrier. We're assuming it will be at Highway 35. Again, we don't have complete confirmation of that, but that's our plan at this point. This is the most fun of the entire race, because this is the point where, number one, you've been awake so long, it doesn't matter if you're in the first place boat or the last place boat, you are seeing things. Even if you don't think you're seeing things, you're seeing things. And as you know, just find somebody who's done the race before. They can tell you their story. There's no point in me telling mine. What?
I just want to say something about saltwater barrier, because they rebuilt that barrier. Oh, yeah.
Speak into the microphone. We hadn't got there yet, but
Oh, I thought we were on it already.
it's in that stretch. But we haven't. Go ahead.
Okay, well, so saltwater barrier, they rebuilt it just in the last year or two, and it looks really runnable when you come up to it. But if you look at it downstream looking up, there are things in there that will zipper your boat. And so we have a portage there. Please pay attention to that portage. Do not run it, because it can really, it'll damage your boat. And then there's also a hydraulic there that you can get stuck in. And so it's a serious health concern.
Yeah, they changed the complete structure of it in the last year. It used to have an inflatable bladder that would come up when the idea is that it's supposed to prevent saltwater intrusion when the river flows are low. The truth of the matter is, I don't think saltwater's ever made it up that high, because as long as there's any flow to the river, it's keeping it out. I think it's, you know, but it does make sure that they can get water to Victoria and everybody out the channel to the left. But David's right. It's a piece of sheet piling, basically, that's in there. And so you come over that thing, and it'll tear the bottom out of your boat if it's that low. And anybody who's ever gone tubing over on the Guadalupe River has probably managed to tumble a time or two at one of those low flow dams. Then you get to the jams, and there will be jams. And you never know exactly what's going to happen in this stretch. If you've had time and you've paddled from Highway 59 down to Highway 35, you've got to look at them. The day after the prelim is the Gator Chase race, and gives you a time to look at it. And for some of you, that may be the best day to look at it, because it's a day that you can do the follow the leader thing and not have to do the whole, you know, spend a day or two out there figuring it out. That's correct. It's the day after the prelim is the only day that we generally have permission to be able to access the property. So yes, thanks for, glad somebody else said, don't do this for a change. So then when you start hearing people say the cuts, this is what they're talking about. This, that's the river going around to the left. Conventional wisdom says if the river is open, stay in the river, it's faster. It's actually a mile or so shorter to go through the cut. However, at this point, I have my doubts about whether or not there's enough water to go through the cuts and through Alligator Lake. And Alligator Lake is not really a lake. In 1986 was the first of a couple of flood years. There was a levee that went all the way around this cornfield, and that levee broke through. I don't know if there was a Chevy, and some of you old enough, and was when you were able to start paddling through there and take the cut. And even that swapped around a bit because the original river course, it comes back over here, and then we can get into all the esoteric BS about it. But this is the area where I would be willing to bet 90%, would you say, Bob, of our non-bay rescues end up happening is in this area because people get lost, they get tired, and instead of just taking a nap or something, they get on their, we want you to have a phone for safety, but it's like, we need you to come get us. It's like, where are you? Or I'm at the jam. It's like, well, are you sick? No. Are you I'm lost. It's like, well, we know you're lost. We've been watching your tracker for the last few hours.
It's been quite entertaining.
Yeah, I mean, that's why we have trackers, so I can sit there and watch those things. And so all that to say is if there's any area that you want to spend a day looking at, again, the only day it's legal to paddle downstream from Swinging Bridge area or from the Invista plant is the day after the prelim, but there's nothing that stops you from paddling upstream from Highway 35 and go and take a look. Yes, sir.
I'm sorry, I cannot really see what is written. Can you just explain what is blue, what is green?
Sure. Oh, okay. Well, no, I don't really want to explain it. I want you to have to go learn it. I spent 20, 40 years learning all this stuff. So this is the river itself, this light blue line. It's also the county line, which is why it shows like this. There's another slide that's a little better, I think. Nope, took it out. And so the river actually goes here. Because of this horseshoe right here, the river slows down so much that anytime it's picked up logs and whatnot, that's the first place it drops them. I mean, there's almost always some sort of jam there unless a flood has just happened and pulled them out. I would say if you don't go down and practice it, my suggestion to you, I'm not telling you it's what you have to do, my suggestion to you would be that you go up the left bank and there's a Jeep trail, and you follow that Jeep trail till there's no Jeep trail anymore, and then you get back in the river, because I've got nice little blue lines here, showing where to go, and you can take a picture of it and take it with you if you want. But I guarantee you're gonna get lost the first time. Almost did it, Patty. One of my goals is for Patty not to get in trouble with the FCC for something that comes out of my mouth. And my mother might be watching too. It's a nice blue line that says where to go, right there you see. Because I spent the time learning how to go there, and even that's probably not the way to go right now. It used to be that my Thursday night, I would leave work, I'd meet my partner, and we would paddle this area. Every Thursday night from the time it got to be daylight savings time until the Thursday before the bridge. So I've got enough GPS tracks through this thing. It looks like the hurricane forecast coming in, where they're showing you all the places the hurricane might go. It's that kind of thing. And I only tell you that not to discourage you from going to learn that. I want to encourage you to go learn it, because that's the only wild place left, man. It's so cool. You get back in there and you come out of one of these cuts and you see this alligator as big as a truck, a fun truck. you know, and it's just the coolest thing. I mean, Pat Patrisky and I were paddling down there one time, and you know, normally you see 2 or 3 gators when the water's at normal level, and we saw a little gator, saw another little gator, then we saw a bunch of gators, then we saw this big son of a gun come crashing down the bank, and then we saw a whole bunch of them at once. And Pat says, "I feel like I'm in a Tarzan movie." I mean, it's never heard of a gator coming after somebody down there, but you could be the first. I mean, it's. Um, you know, it's entertaining. I mean, I'm not scared of alligators, not because I'm tough or anything. I'm not scared of snakes, not because I'm tough. All that I'm too stupid to be scared of, I imagine. What scares me are fire ants. Um, I was telling this story the other night. I have a recurring dream from this area of the river. I do. I've had this dream like since 1987, at least once a year. Of we're floating along, and have you ever seen what fire ants do in a flood? They make a ball. And so in my dream, every time this ball of fire ants hits the boat, and like the blob comes over the boat, and about that time, I never know what happens because that's when I wake up. I'm about to either jump out or get, you know, stripped to the bone. So this area, I mean, if there's anything besides the San Marcos River I would tell you to learn, it's find a way to learn this area.
You say, find a way to your own blue, make your own blue
Yeah.
route instead of trying to go all around.
It's such a spaghetti bowl of a mess back there that I could give you my GPS track. I mean, I'm just saying, I could literally give you my GPS track, and the water comes up a foot, and all of a sudden you're paddling over here, but the GPS track says to be here. I mean, it's just. I mean, there's no real elevation to it, so when the water gets up in there, it's going all over the place. It's the coolest place on the whole river. Find a way to go down there, not just during the race. But all that to say is, that's what if you take nothing else then away from today, is learn this stuff yourself, and really do not get dependent on the technology, or yeah, or the spray paint, or the signs, or anything else that might be down there. And it's for the most part, people have gotten away from marking things with paint. I mean, that used to be pretty bad. Um, Wade Binion tells a story that they were paddling along, and they were following all the paint marks, and there was a SC, and they went in there and just were getting all chewed up by branches and brambles and stuff. And he thought it meant shortcut. And he talked to the guys who had painted it later, and they said, "Oh, hell no, that meant second choice." So all that to say, if it's a mark and you didn't make it, don't trust it. I mean, and I'll tell you this is one of, now I get on my whole social media rant. I hate it. Everybody wants to share information on there, and then you want to be, I'm the coolest guy. I know the way to get through the log jams. I'm going to post my track up on the internet. And I want to find you and beat you like an ugly redheaded stepchild for that. Because it's a race. The whole idea is for you to learn the stuff, and you don't tell the guy you're racing against how to get through there, because guess what? He may actually do it, and you didn't. I don't really want to beat him. Well, there's a few of them, but you know, it's don't give away your secrets. I mean, you know, I come from the era you had to go hang out over at the canoe livery late at night, and there was a fire and maybe some Lone Star or Diet Coke or what have you, and that's how you learn the secret. You ask the old guys that have been around forever, and that's the way this stuff gets stuck in your head. You know, I mean, Sandy certainly grew up with it. Holly's been at it since she was a kid. You know, Hoyt's done the race 20 times. Bob's been down there 100 times. Dave's done 10 of them. I mean, you know, you know where you're going at that point. But I'm telling you what, if I'm racing against my wife, I'm not going to tell her how to get through there. I mean, it's a race. All right. quit beating on that horse. This saltwater barrier, at this point, I would assume that there will be a portage required. And I want to even back up on what Dave said earlier. Even if the water's up and you're pretty sure there's really good flow going on, and holy cow, Kennedy grew a foot since I saw her last. Stop and look at it. Take out, there's a boat ramp upstream, walk down there and have an idea of what you're getting into. Never go into anything blind. It's kind of like when Jonathan Zeke and Jonathan Yonley and were paddling with us in the early years, you know, they were young and agile, and I was in my mid-30s, and that was a long time ago then. And they would jump into the river just without ever taking an idea. And I remember losing my cool with them. It's like, you guys have got to get in there and figure out what's underneath the water before you jump in, because otherwise you're going to find out that it's like a suppository and not aspirin, in the most painful way possible. I mean, there's always stuff underneath there. And also, what's that?
I said, maybe it's because the audio isn't.
Oh. Anyway.
Let's talk about ammonia. No.
Well, you probably need to at some point, but so anyhow, I mean, think before you jump in, look at the stuff. I mean, you know, if you've got to crawl up a nasty bank because you don't know what's happening, I mean, log jams are dangerous places, you know. I mean, there's water flowing underneath them, and there's a lot of stuff out there that wants to hurt you. A lot of stuff out there that's worth going out there to see and get hurt by, too. That's the portage route over on the right-hand side. Right-hand side. Right-hand side. Calhoun's RV Park, Tivoli 35. Did I get this one right, Nathan? I don't think so. Oh. Pretty neat boat ramp underneath there. Pretty decent. I will tell you it's relatively steep, so don't go just running your boat up there. And if you're in the bow, don't just hop out and think, oh, this will be great, because your poor sternman's going to be swimming because it just flipped him out of the boat because it's that steep. Really nice people here. Man, for you guys on the bank, make sure you park in the designated parking area, because it's so the elevation is so low that there's not many places their septic can run. So if you go driving across their drain fields and stuff, then they've got a problem with their campground. And so they did a good job of marking off where to park. Just make sure that we follow that. There's a picture in daylight. Is that a Geisinger girl?
It is.
I wonder how they got their pictures in there. But anyway, those guys done a wonderful job of keeping it cleaned up. I mean, if you do that long run from 59 down, you know, another group of people who haven't learned just to charge you $20 because that's what comes out of the ATM. I think it's like $8 or something to park. Or you could join the TCKRA and get the sticker on the window. It's a good plan. Thank you for pointing it back out. I forget about this stuff at the moment. But make sure that you either have a TCKRA sticker. It is a sticker this year, right? Or that you've paid your money, because these guys are trying to make a living. The wooden bridge, I didn't really put a picture of the wooden bridge because sadly it's no longer wooden. It's now just another average concrete structure. This is the last stop before the bay. This is the place that has the biggest mosquitoes ever recorded in the state of Texas. One was like the size of an F-18, I believe. Then the trip across the bay. I'm gonna come around the other here so I can point better. So there's Wooden Bridge. You're coming down, coming out. You're gonna look on maps and you're gonna see something called the North Fork. I have never seen the North Fork because it's, you know, at some point it was infested with hyacinth and it's pretty much filled in. You're going to come down and you're going to come out of the river into the mouth of the bay, hence the mark that says bay mouth. And if you are so inclined to put on your spray cover, that's a really good place to do it. What else are you supposed to put on at that point? Sweet. And so now what you want to do is go down to Foster's Point, roughly. You don't want to do what this hapless couple did and point back up here and then walk all the way down here and then work your way to Seadrift. This is another one of those places where it baffles me how people get lost until I almost do it myself, because you've done it enough times and you think, oh, I know where I'm going, except for I didn't look at it in the dark. And it's not the same in the dark as it was last year. And it's not, I mean, they keep adding lights and things. So I suggest that you find a time to go down there, and you could do the Cowboy Bay crossing, which means you park at the finish line and paddle up to the mouth of the bay and back across. Or you can, do the whole shuttle from 35, but learn it. And, I guarantee you, you get things stuck in your mind, right? I still look for the light on top of the water tower, except for there is no water tower anymore. So every year it's like, where's the, it's not there, kind of thing. Or you look for the 6 lights at the Bayfront Park until you realize they've got 6 brighter lights over at the marina. I mean, and we're not finishing at Bayfront Park, we're finishing it at Swan Point. And so spend the time. That's another spot. If you've got an afternoon or a Sunday afternoon, that's not the time to do it because you'll be late getting home. But if you can do it on Sunday morning, it wouldn't be so bad. Now I can go back over here. So there's the right way to do it. Foster's Point down to the point. Now this is, if you can look, you can start to see this is the barge canal we talked about earlier. And you see there's rents or breaks through that spoil island, and that's where people end up getting in there and getting lost, or what I'm afraid is going to happen at some point is get hurt. And this is the finish line at Swan Point, or actually it's Sanders Memorial Park. And we've got some new brighter buoys this year. There's the finish line. And that's the end. Well, except for I don't have a picture from, this is almost the end. You've got another mile to go on this one. And that's the course. That's it. You all ready to go? Dave, anything I missed, you think? Glad you brought that up about the... No. Holly? Bob? Kristen? Questions? I would just underline go see the course. What's that? Go see the course. Yeah, I mean, if you take nothing, if you take nothing else away from all this, is go see it. There's nothing like personalized, like we talked about those cuts and things. If you can go through there and you don't need to be to the point, well, in 1993 we went this way, and that kind of thing. But you need to be to the point where you recognize it, and listen. And I would tell you this. I meant to tell Tony we'd be ready at 11:30. If go to the MAC races, you've probably seen those listed, because that will get you all the way down the San Marcos River, with a pretty good crowd of people. And when you're at these races, ask questions, because you heard me, I'm not going to come tell you anything. But you come ask me, and I'm liable to tell you. Or better yet, as my friend Mr. Paddock used to say, if you want to go see something, call us, because most of us are looking for a shuttle anyway. And more than happy to go see it with you, but we're not going to tell you how to do it. You need to lay eyes on it yourself. But all that to say is ask questions. You know, this afternoon we've got 4 stations, you know, with different pieces of getting ready for the safari. Everybody's here because we want you to be successful. I mean, if we didn't want you to be successful, heck, we'd just stay home this afternoon. We'd go paddle and, you know, let you figure it all out on your own. So ask questions and, you know, ask somebody what they eat. Ask somebody what they drink. And if somebody tells you one size fits all, they're wrong. We all eat differently and we all drink differently. That pretty much.
Do you mind if I say one more thing about the rules?
About what?
About rules?
No? As long as you say it correctly.
Yeah. Oh, no, I'm not going to say anything about rules. It's just, so we've gone through in detail with all these rules, and these rules are designed to preserve the spirit of the safari, which it truly is a very difficult endeavor. Like, you will have to put a lot of time in to do this correctly and to do it successfully and actually enjoy yourself. Now, when rules are broken, it's very rarely nefarious cheaters. It's something like a well-meaning TC that puts out chairs for their people. But to keep the spirit of this as truly the toughest canoe race, like, it has to be simulated, self-supported as much as possible. You can receive that food, you can receive medical supplies, but you cannot receive any equipment, so you have to pack that in. And things get forgotten, and when you're broken down and your mind is kind of a mess, like, it's very easy to ask for things, and that's usually when rules are broken. So just be very aware, plan ahead of that to avoid that, because, I mean, a lot of you are gonna be tested. A lot of you are gonna find out that rock bottom is a fallacy. Like, the hole goes way deeper than you think it does. And so it's gonna push you really hard. So just prepare for that, read these rules, really understand it, and then if you keep that spirit of the safari and follow these rules, it keeps the integrity of the race. It keeps everybody on a level playing field, and it makes that finish so much better.
You know, the point is, nobody does this because it's easy. I mean, if it was easy, you just, I don't know, do it in virtual reality. Before we have lunch, Bob is going to go through the boat classes and / specifications. And after that, we're going to have lunch across the street at Duets. It'll be kind of a buffet line. If you feel like you need an adult beverage, you know, you're adults, if you're an adult. Be careful, I make a blanket statement. And, you know, make sure you tip your waiters and bartenders. Because I want my bar to stay open.
And before you let them know, we do have participatory and social media requests. We did that.
Okay, thanks. Well, first of all, great crowd. Thanks for being here. I would like to get a better feel. I see a lot of people that I know would be considered veterans that have done it 10 or 20 times, but if you're doing it for the first time, could you raise your hand? Keep your hands up. Keep your hands up. Wow, that's a lot of folks. Now, keep your hands up. Now, if you're here and you're in another type of boat, but you're doing the race for a second or more, raise your hand. And keep the hands up on the first ones, like I said. Now, anybody else who's not doing it for the first time, put your hands up. Okay, now, keep your hands up. Everybody who's a team captain, get your hands up. Okay, almost everybody here, 90% or more. Thanks for coming. I think we only have about 15 minutes, so I'll try to be sort of brief on this. I assume everybody already knows what class you're in, but if you don't know about the boat you have or whether it meets the specs, we certainly would visit with you about this during lunch or whatever. I brought a couple of boats in that I want to talk about a little bit about, but first of all, let me just go over the classes. If you're going solo, there are 4 classes. There's 2 for men and 2 for women. One of those classes is a USCA C1, which you see down there, the carbon boat. All those boats can be no narrower than a certain percentage of the length. They can be no longer than 18.5 feet long, but they can be shorter. But depending on the length that they are, some of them are as little as, say, 17.4. The width can be no narrower than 13.375%, which is 13 3/8% of the length. That's a Diller boat made by Savage River. There are others that Winona sells, and it's a really good boat to get down the river as long as you know how to paddle it. It's the hardest boat to get down the river. You're sitting in the middle of the boat that doesn't want to turn. You're pushing a wave on the front and back, and to turn well, you actually have to lean the boat in the wrong direction toward the water. So it's not one that I'd recommend people going down the river for the first year. I've seen people put rudders on there, which is a terrible thing to do to a canoe. A regular spec canoe, you don't want to do that. I remember being at an annual meeting, and Mike Chickanowski, who owns Winona, I had a friend with me, and Mike had just made a presentation on canoes, and they don't have rudders, and my friend held it up and said, "Hey, I got one, and I fish in it all the time. I put a rudder on it." Mike said, "We need to give you lessons." So it's a hard boat to get down the river, and we have a class for both men and women. The other class, solo, is the unlimited, and there are no specs, any kind of boat that you think you can sit in and make it. The narrower the boat, generally speaking, and longer, the faster the boat. And we often see surf skis, we see Spencer C1s. You could paddle an Olympic kayak if you wanted to, but I wouldn't recommend it. But any kind of design, and you can use any kind of manpower that you want. It could be pedals. Most people use a double blade paddle. You can use a single or double blade. Anything goes. In the old days, they actually had sails to go across, and you can use that too. But anyway, there are 4 classes. One is the spec boat that I mentioned that's sitting on the sawhorse down there, and another is the unlimited. And by the way, I think there are some outside that we can show you if you want to look at those. The novice class, the word novice is a misnomer because it only means you haven't done the race before. We've had people that were vets that came down and picked that class because they wanted to win it. And the truth is, it's not just a class for novices. If you're a novice, you better be out on the river and be pretty proficient in your paddling strokes. The specs of the boat, they cannot be any longer than 17.4, and it can include aluminum boats. It can include some other fiberglass boats, some plastic boats, but they cannot be any longer than 17.4. In that class, you can only use a single blade paddle and no rudders, that sort of thing. That's the novice. The aluminum is basically the same specs as far as the length, which is 17.4, but in that class, it's just aluminum boats. And we see many people that do that race just once and they say, "Not for me again," but there's other people like, raise your hand, Hoyt. This guy's done it 21, or is it 20? 21 times. I don't know if he got a lick on the head the first time or what the reason is, but I remember seeing a t-shirt that said, "Friends don't let friends paddle aluminum." And it's a tough boat to get down just based on the weight to get it there, but it's a real forgiving boat because it has the best stability of any of the boats we have. The aluminum, again, is 17.4. You can use only single blade paddles, and you cannot make any modifications at the outside of any of these boats. You can do things on the inside, like the boats you see here and the ones outside. They have sliding seats. Some people modify and put braces and that sort of thing, but you can't change the outside configuration. And what's that? Not beavers in that class, right? She's talking about a beaver boat, and they haven't been made in many years, but the boats are illegal in any of the aluminum classes because they're faster than any other. I wish somebody would get that mold and make them again, but I've got one, and they're great boats to paddle, but they're illegal in that class. Then we have the standard boat class, and it was created some years ago by Tom Goins to try to give people an opportunity to move up to a little faster boat from your wreck boat, but one that really doesn't meet the specs of the real C2 class, which is the real carbon fast boats. And we list on the website a couple of boats you can use in that class. The canoes are limited to 18 foot in length. They can be no narrower than 15% of the length, and I think we meant to say at the 4-inch waterline, although it's not on the web. And there's a couple of other specs as far as the height of the boat at the front and the back. And for example, the Sunner, Jensen 18 and the 18-foot Sundowner both meet that class. And in that class, you could race a beaver boat. Again, you have to use single blade paddles, no rudders, no double blade paddles in that class. Then we get to the USCA C2 class. The boat against the wall back there is what we refer to as a 327. It's commonly called that because the spec says it can be no narrower than 27 inches at the 3-inch waterline. All the boats are 18.6, cannot be any longer, and that's the class and the spec for anybody racing pro boats in the C2 class in North America. Now there's another boat that you can also race, which was a spec that was developed by the United States Canoeing Association, which we call a 432 cruiser. And the reason we call it 432 is because at the 4-inch water line, it can be no narrower than 32 inches for an 18.5-foot boat. You can have a shorter boat, but again, it meets that same spec I mentioned a while ago. If you have a boat shorter than 18.6, it can be no narrower than, again, 14 3/8% of that length. Those are really class boats. They're fast. They have some final stability because of the flare on the way on the sides. They're what I'd recommend if you were going to paddle a C2 class. In that class, there'd be 2 paddlers. They can only use single blade paddles, no double blade paddles, no rudders, that sort of thing. Then we have the unlimited classes, and I'll start out with I've already talked about the solo. We have the tandem unlimited class, which is 2 people, no specs again, any length, rudders, double blade paddles, single blade paddles, powered paddle driven. You can row it if you want to, although I wouldn't recommend that. However, in 1966 through 1978, that class the overall race was won by rowing boats. A few years later, people start getting a little longer boats, a few more paddlers, and now you see the boats like we have outside that have 6 people, double blade paddles. There's no way that a rowboat can get down the river with those oars because you're going backwards. You break off the oars and so forth. But the unlimited tandem class, any kind of boat, any kind of paddle, man-powered, and any length or width. There's also a mixed class for the tandem, just a man and a woman in that boat. Then there's the unlimited, which is the featured class that has won the race most of the times. That's anywhere from 3 to 6 people. They can use any kind of boat, rudders, double blade paddles, single blade paddles, and all the 3, 4, 5, and 6 people race in the same class. That race has won the boat about 95% of the time over the last 25 to 30 years. But in recent times, a 4-person boat has won the race, a tandem surf ski has won the race, so you just need to pick your boat. Each one has advantages. Surf skis are great because you can cross a rough bay. They don't fill up with water. However, they're really tippy and you're setting low, so sometimes that causes back problems. So you just need to choose the boat that works for you. There's also a special recognition that we have. You're entered in a class, but if you also are all master paddlers in a boat, whether it's solo or 6-person, the fastest masters team gets special recognition. We also have a adult youth class, special recognition. So any team that has an adult and a youth from 3 to 17 years of age, if they're the fastest boat that meet those specs in any kind of boat, they would win special recognition in the adult youth class. I think I was trying to make it through and maybe I went too fast. If there's some question you may have about any of those boats, I'll try to field it right now. Well, you're either hungry or I covered it, I'm not sure. But anyway, thanks for being here. I guess we'll give you out a little bit early. So as Jay said, it's across the street and we're coming. Oh yeah, Patty has something.
Okay, so some of you heard me earlier talking about social media, and I'm gonna not get tripped by Bob here. So we have a very heavy presence everywhere, and so we wear many hats. We wear DCKRA, we wear ourselves as family members or racers. So just so you know, we're always gonna be there taking pictures, taking video. You know, sometimes it's just easier just to friend me, because I will be friending you so that I can tag your pictures, okay? We have a Flickr account, and we have YouTube for those of you not on social media, that we're trying very hard to get all of your pictures up there for your friends and your family, okay? Just remember to smile and that we're stalking you. And that being said, Sandy has invested in a drone, so we have lovely drone videos, but we're also trying to get some other more personal content over this next safari season. So Sandy may be wandering around and just asking you questions. Smile and answer. No answer is wrong, but we just are trying to preserve in the history of the safari, the spirit of the safari. It's kind of why you're here. And then maybe we're gonna ask you when we see you at the finish line, okay? So that was one big thing. If you are going true novice, registered in novice, I do write an article in the TCKRA newsletter called, Meet the Novices. So you may get a crazy email from some weird lady asking you some questions. Please answer. It's a way for the whole community to get to know you as racers, to welcome you into the community, okay? So watch for that email. TCKRA, ticking off my safari onto TCKRA.
Thanks, Patty. And I can attest that this social media team is everywhere on the river, guys. So just when you think you may be around a corner or a bend, be careful. She will get you. This woman right here will get you. So no, I'm Nathan. I'm the president of the TCKRA. I just want to take a few minutes to explain to you guys what that is, and then invite you guys, obviously, to sign up for the club. We are an association that really, our mission promotes three things, guys. First is paddle sports in Texas. That's why you're all here today, right? To do this wonderful Texas Water Safari, or hopefully learn about it in your first attempt. We promote racing throughout all of Texas. So we have a series of races, guys, that we host. These are much smaller events. I highly encourage you to do these events, right? They're 14 miles, 20 miles. They're different types of events, right? They're open water, downriver. So different. It's a different element of racing than getting on the river and going 260 miles, right? There's a lot of fun in them. You get to experience, the second thing we promote, which is community. So you really get to learn the people that are around you that love this sport, right? That's why I joined the club. That's why I volunteered to be the president, guys, is the community that this club creates is pretty amazing. Some of my best friends in life now are sitting in this room. They're friends that I call on to go paddle on the weekends, or friends that I call on to race. So I really hope that you guys take the community aspect seriously, that it can really be a friendship, right? Not only with the river, but with the people that share the like-mindedness. Along that, club members, we host a big party around that community, right? So every year, end of the year, we host a big party at the end of the year. Everyone's invited. It's an awesome time to come and talk about just all the race stories, right? All the time, all the paddle stories, all the training stories. It's just a really good event. The third part of our mission is really stewardship. We, in conjunction with some other organizations, we help host 2 river cleanups. This is important, right, to just maintain environmental stewardship mindset, right? So we encourage all of our members to come out, help us clean the rivers that we're actually playing in. First one's March? Perfect. So if all that sounds appetizing, you're like, hey, I want to join this club. We have a little table set up. My daughter and I will be here for a while, for the next 2 hours. Come see us. We'll show you how to sign up. It's fairly inexpensive. Yeah, so I'm getting to that. So there's a few more benefits, but it's really inexpensive in my mind. It's $25 per individual for the year, or it's $40 for your family for the year. When you sign up, you get a couple immediate benefits. One is we've got in partnership with 3 of the land owners along the San Marcos River, the river that they're all saying go paddle today, right? That's the start of the Texas Water Safari. These are critical points along the river, guys, that you don't normally have access to, right? So, or you have to pay a lot of money for access. Your membership includes free parking to these 3 specific landowner sites. Very important. The second is a really nice race sort of magnet, right? It's a race calendar, I call it, on a magnet that you put on your fridge for the year. You wouldn't believe, if you get into paddle sports in Texas, guys, there's something for you every weekend of the year just about. So it's not, I know you're in here for this specific race, which is amazing. I've done it 13 times and I love it. But there's so many other fun races throughout Texas, right? This Magnets is a good just a reminder of what's happening that weekend or coming up, right? So what'd I forget? And the newsletter. So we do a roughly quarterly newsletter, lots of fun information. Yeah, that's exciting. So anyway, my time's probably up. Please come see us, join the TCKRA. I wish all of you the best of luck. Oh yeah, there are some free prizes if you sign up today. So come see us, sign up today. We'll get you into the drawing. But best of luck to everyone in this room. I really hope to see you along the, in training. I love to shake your hand, meet you. Love to see you on the course. I love to see you in the race. So thanks for everybody coming out and join the TCKRA. Thank you.
So Patty mentioned earlier, the social media team is top notch. Those photos come up so quick. So loved ones who are following along, it's really awesome for them. Like we're talking same day, it's just really fantastic. Another piece of how people can track is with the GPS tracking on the website. And so I wanted to introduce you all to Sam Friedman. Sam, do you want to say a few words?
Hi, I'm Sam Friedman. I'm the Director of Tracking this year for the Texas Water Safari. So I'm in charge of making sure that y'all's GPS devices are connected to your boat or register with your boat so that we can track your location and progress on the website during the race itself, so the team captains can follow you around, so your friends and family can follow you around. It's a really great tool, and so I'll be the one sending y'all emails, helping you register your GPS device with our website, so you can put a name to a face when you get all these emails in the coming months. And feel free to ask me any questions along the way if you need help. So thanks, guys.
All right, so we're about to break for lunch. Any questions that you have? We have an official TWS email address. It's new, and so it's real easy to remember, tws@texaswatersafari.org. You will see a lot of people talking and discussing things on social media. Just remember, if it doesn't come from an official channel from the Texas Water Safari, it is not an official rule. And so there's a lot of confusion created every year from that. So if you do have a question, think about it for a while, and then you can put it to that email address. We're going to now break for lunch, and so lunch will be over across the street. Bob, did you have anything else?
Okay, so we got a long lunch. It looks like we might try to slip back a little early, but 1 o'clock, we want to be outside. There's several different modules. Or Holly, do you want to say anything about that? Okay, yeah, the T-shirts. Actually, there's some real collector's items out there. I was looking through them myself. Some of those are real antique, so to speak. So if you're interested, $5 a pop is a great deal. So just across the street to the left is where we're eating, and so I think they're ready for us now. So we'll see you back at 1 o'clock.